I'll be making an opening statement.
You will not be?
No.
All right. Mr. Porter, call your first witness.
Your Honor, of course, the defendant is also entitled to make an opening statement at the close of the state's case,
It is true.
which you'd have to make another option.
Do you intend to make an opening statement at any point, ma'am?
No, sir, Your Honor.
All right. Call your first witness, sir.
The state will call, well, first of all, Your Honor, may I approach the court reporter and have an exhibit marked?
You may.
Your Honor, prior to the first witness testifying, the state at this time would move to admit State's Exhibit Number 1, which is a certified copy of the indictment, plea, and sentence in case number 11B1153-10, which is the State of Georgia versus Tiffany Nicole Brown, charged with cruelty to children in the first degree, with a plea of guilty on the 13th of June, 2011.
Okay. Any objection? States one will be admitted without objection.
Is Detective King on the right? If you could bring Detective King. Your Honor, may I move the podium?
Yes, sir.
Judge, I do anticipate there will be some photographs with this witness. Would you like for us to turn that back on now? It's ready, if that's all right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That would be fine.
Mr. Shulman, and may approach him. Thank you.
Detective King, could you take the stand, please? I'm sorry, Sergeant King.
Okay.
Could you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter now pending shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
Could you state your name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Sergeant Diane King, K-I-N-G,
And Sergeant King, how are you employed?
as a sergeant with the Gwinnett County Police Department.
And what is your current assignment?
Sergeant with a uniform patrol at North Precinct.
All right, so would it be fair to say that you supervise other officers as they go about their duties and assist them in that?
Yes, sir.
All right. How long have you been with the Gwinnett County Police Department?
Since September 2003.
During that time, have you ever been assigned to the Detective Division?
Yes, I have.
Were you also assigned to what's called the Special Victims Unit?
Yes, I was.
Can you tell the jury what types of crime does the Special Victims Unit investigate?
All crimes against children, ranging from physical abuse to sexual abuse, as well as rapes against women.
Right. I'd like to call your attention to March the 18th and 19th of 2010.
Okay?
I noticed that you have a copy of your report there, and feel free to use that to refresh your memory if you need to.
Okay.
What was your assignment then?
I was in the Special Victims Unit as a detective.
And as part of your duties as a special victims investigator, did you receive a referral regarding a possible cruelty case where the victim was Imani Moss?
Yes, I did.
All right. And can you describe for the jury how did that referral come in and from whom?
Well, it came in from Officer Everett, who was a police officer with our department as well. He was called out to Cooper Elementary by administrators there with respect to a crime against a child.
All right. And are teachers and administrators in schools mandated reporters? Are they required to report child abuse?
Yes, they are.
All right. As a result of the information you received from Officer Everett, did you go to Cooper Elementary?
No, I requested Officer Everett transport Imani to police headquarters so I can conduct an interview of her.
Well, I guess I want to ask, did you, as part of your investigation, did you also take statements from the administrators who had made the report?
I did not. Officer Everett might have. I believe he spoke with them on scene.
All right. So Imani was transported to the police department, is that right?
Yes.
Tell the jury, there are special techniques and special training that you had regarding the interview of children. First of all, can you tell the jury what your training is and give them some idea of the challenges that is involved in interviewing a child?
One of the most important things to do when interviewing a child is not to lead them and to ask open-ended questions. Basically, a yes or a no answer is what you're looking for. We try not to put any ideas in their heads, so we qualify them. So we ask questions such as spatial recognition, if something is over something or under something, whether or not they know the difference between a truth or a lie, if telling the truth is good, telling a lie is bad. Questions like that. We ask them all different types of colors to make sure they're at the appropriate level to be interviewed.
Okay, and Imani was 6 at this time?
Yes, she was.
All right. How did you find her in terms of first of all, her demeanor and then her response to your questions?
She had good spatial recognition. She knew all of her colors. She was able to differentiate between telling the truth and telling a lie. She was not able to tell me her full address at the time, but she was able to tell me her full name and her birthday.
Okay. And so where did the interview take place?
It took place at police headquarters.
All right. Is there a special room for interviewing children, or did you do it in a standard interview room?
We have a victim interview room up in Detectives.
And is that where the interview took place?
Yes.
So once you established her ability, I guess is the best way to put it, what did she tell you had happened?
She told me she got in trouble by her stepmom, Tiffany Moss, for not doing her homework the previous night, and she was spanked with a brown leather belt.
Did she tell you how many times she'd been struck?
She's several times. She had bruises and welts all over her body, to include her arms, chest, back, and legs.
All right. Did you document those injuries?
Yes, I did.
All right. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, sir. All right.
Your Honor, I've shown the photographs that I intend to introduce to the defendant, and she is reviewing them prior to my tender of those exhibits.
Thank you, sir. Are you done, Ms. Moss?
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir.
Sergeant King, I have a series of photographs here. And if you could, what I'd like you to do first is go through and identify those photographs and reference them by their exhibit number, which begins with PS. And if you could describe what the photograph is, and then I'll ask you if those are accurate representations. But we'll go through all the photographs if you'll describe them each to the jury.
Okay. PS1 is a close-up face shot or headshot of Amani Moss.
Okay. And PS2?
Is a full body shot of Amani Moss. PS3 is a full body shot of Amani Moss facing to the left. PS4 is a full body shot of Amani facing to the right. PS5 is a full body shot of Amani with her back to the camera. PS6 is a picture of Amani's, appears to be her right arm with several belt marks going up and down her arm. PS7 is one of Amani's arms with a measurement tape from her crime scene showing the size of the mark. PS8 is the back of Amani's back, bare back. It looks like her left shoulder with a measuring tool showing marks on her back, her upper back. PS9 is Amani's back, her lower right side, again with a measuring tool showing the size of the marks on her back. PS10, again with a measuring tool, it appears to be Amani's right side, her back to her right side. PS11, again with a measuring tool, appears to be Amani's back, her left side, showing the size of the marks on her back. PS12 is the front side of Amani. It appears to be the right side, just underneath her chest, near her rib cage, with a measuring tool. PS13 with a measuring tool shows a picture of marks on Amani's chest, in the center of her chest, upper chest. PS14 is a picture of Amani's bruises with a measuring tool on, it looks like her right leg, her right upper thigh. PS15 is a picture of Amani's thigh closer to the knee with marks with a measuring tool. PS16 is a picture of marks on Amani's arm with a measuring tool. PS17 appears to be another picture of Amani's arms with a measuring tool and marks on it. PS18 is a picture of a lower arm, not sure which arm of Amani, with bruising and marks and a measuring tool. PS19 appears to be a picture of Amani's lower right arm with marks and a measuring tool. And PS20 is a picture of Amani's lower arm, her wrist area with marks and a measuring tool.
Sergeant King, were those photographs taken at your direction?
Yes, they were.
And are they a true and accurate representation of the injuries that you observed on that child that day?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of putting the measuring device into the photographs?
To give you something to measure against and to show a true and accurate depiction of the marks.
Now, when you interviewed Amani, did she say anything about that she tried to get away or that she tried to run away?
Yes, she did. She said she tried getting away from Tiffany.
Right. And did she ever inform you whether or not the defendant stopped hitting her when she tried to run away?
She said she was just hit all over, and she tried getting away. She was still being struck.
All right. Did she indicate to you that she was struck with the buckle portion of the belt or based on your experience in looking at the injuries, did you reach a conclusion as to whether or not she'd been struck with the buckle edge of the bow?
I cannot definitively answer that. She did say that Tiffany folded the belt when she struck her, and the marks are indicative of a belt wrapping around her.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, we would move to tender into evidence. May I approach?
Yes, sir.
Tender into evidence State Exhibit PS1 through PS20, which have been identified by Sergeant King as photographs that were taken at her direction in the investigation of the 2010 case of cruelty.
Any objection? States PS 1 through 20 are each admitted without objection.
Your Honor, I'd also ask the court's permission to publish these photographs to the jury now that they've been admitted. We have a device and they'll be projected onto the screen,
Yes, sir.
assuming I can make it work. Again, Sergeant King, can you tell us what, that is PS1. Can you tell us what that is?
That's a close-up headshot of Amani Moss.
And PS2, can you describe what that is?
The full body shot of Amani.
PS3.
Full body shot of Amani facing to her left.
And the clothing that she's wearing, are those the clothes that she was wearing at school?
Yes.
When she was transported to the Gwinnett County Police Department?
Yes, sir.
Again, that's PS4. Can you identify that for the jury again?
Yes, that's a full body shot of Amani facing to the right.
And PS5, can you identify that?
Full body shot of Amani facing away from the camera.
Right. It's not clear from these particular photographs, but when you interviewed Amani, were the injuries to her visible to your naked eye? Were you able to observe them despite her clothing and?
Yes, I was.
Right, I want to show you PS6. Let's try for PS6. Can you identify that?
That looks like to be the right arm of Amani, her right lower arm, with marks going up and down it.
All right, and could you step to that screen and point to the injuries that you observed that day?
All up and down here, these are the marks right here and right here.
Thank you. You can resume. Your Honor, with the court's permission, we have preloaded these onto a computer, and we think we can bring them up clearer on the screen in sequence without handling them.
They're the same images as was previously.
Exactly the same images, Your Honor,
Yes.
that are PS1 through 6.
You're welcome to publish them in that way, yes, sir.
That's 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6. All right. If we could click to the next photograph, please. Can you take a look at PS7 and identify that?
It looks to be the shoulder area of one of her arms, Amani's arms, with bruising on it. And obviously they're using the measuring tool.
Okay. Can we move to the next photograph, please? Can you identify PS8?
Yes, that, with the measuring tool, they're showing the bruising to the upper left back of Amani in the shoulder area.
And then moving to PS 9.
It's Amani's lower back. They're showing it with a measuring tool. I believe that's her right side going towards her midsection.
And moving to PS 10.
Same side of the body. That's Amani's lower right back going towards the midsection with the measuring tool.
And then moving to PS 11.
With the measuring tool, they're showing the marks on Amani's right back.
And then moving to PS 12, please.
That is the right side of Amani's body. They're showing with the measuring tool right in there are the marks and bruises on her right side underneath her arm.
And Detective King, those injuries are separate than what we've previously seen. Is that correct? They appear to be higher up on her side than the others.
From the previous photos, yes, that is higher up on her side.
If you can look at PS 13, please.
Those are marks. They're using a measuring tool, and those are marks on her upper chest, just underneath her neck, on the front side of her.
Moving to PS 14, can you identify that?
Yes, that's with a measuring tool. They're showing the bruising on Amani's right leg, her right upper thigh. And using a measuring tool, they're showing marks on one of Amani's legs.
This is PS 15, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I got distracted. All right, if we can move to 16, please.
I believe that is Amani's right lower arm, and they're showing, using the measuring tool, they're showing the bruising and the marks on her lower arm.
And then moving on to 17.
That is, I believe that's one of Amani's legs. I believe that's her left thigh, and they're using a measuring tool there to show the bruising and marks.
And then if we can move to 18.
That would be one of Amani's arms. They're using the measuring tool to show the bruising that's wrapped around her arm.
And is it your testimony that these were wrapped around her body or her arm or her leg?
Yes.
And is that consistent with a belt based on your experience as an SVU investigator?
Yes, it is.
This is State's Exhibit PS number 19. Can you identify that?
It appears to be Amani's right lower arm with marks going up and down her arms and bruising at the lower using the measuring tool.
And then finally, State's PS number 20. Can you look at that and identify that?
One of Amani's lower arms. It's the under area of the wrist using the measuring tool.
Can you just turn the screen off? Is that the easiest way to? Your Honor, we moved the screen to the screensaver or
Yes, sir.
so that there are no other photographs on it.
We can turn off the screen. Thank you, sir.
Now, Sergeant King, once you got the statement from Amani, did you interview any other witnesses?
Yes, I did.
All right, and what witnesses did you interview?
Amani's father, Aman Moss, her grandmother, Robin Moss, and then her stepmother, Tiffany Moss.
All right. Now, was Tiffany Moss there at the same time that Aman Moss and his mother were there?
No, she showed up sometime later.
Did you have to look for her?
We were trying to get a hold of her for quite some time, and no one could reach her. And finally, Mr. Moss said she was having car trouble, so she showed up about 6 p.m. that evening at police headquarters with her mother.
Okay, just so I understand, when was the report brought in and your interview with Amani? When did that take place?
Towards the end of the school day, so around 3 in the afternoon.
So three hours or so later,
Yes.
the defendant came in for an interview.
Yes.
Did you advise her of her Miranda warnings?
Yes, I did.
And did that interview take place in an interview room at the Gwinnett County Police Department?
Yes, it did.
Did you use any force or threats against her to get her to speak to you at all?
No, not at all.
And did she speak to you?
Yes, she did.
What did she tell you?
She admitted to striking Amani with the brown leather belt as Amani described it for not doing her homework.
Did she describe to you how many times she thought she had struck Amani?
She said she thought it was only 3 times.
Is that consistent with the injuries that you observed?
Not at all.
And based on, did she make any other statements to you?
Forgive me while I look at my... Yeah, she said she had given Amani 5 minutes to complete her homework, sent her to her room, and when the 5 minutes was up and Amani had not completed her homework that morning, that's when she struck her with the belt. She said Amani tried getting away from her, and she actually physically demonstrated Amani covering her face like that to avoid being struck with the belt.
And based on the evidence that you gathered in this case, what did you do?
I secured a warrant for Tiffany's arrest for cruelty to children in the first and arrested her.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Cross-examination. Can this witness be excused, Mr. Porter?
Yes, Your Honor. We would, if she's on duty, she can return to her duties. Otherwise, the state would ask that she be excused.
You're excused, ma'am. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Robin Moss.
Over here a little bit, Your Honor, if that's okay. Ms. Moss, if you could raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you swear affirm the testimony that you're about to give today in the state of Georgia versus Tiffany Moss will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you put your hand down, please. And if you could state your name for the court and for the jury, please.
Robin MacArthur Moss.
And Ms. Moss, how did you know Amani Moss?
She's my granddaughter.
And she was the daughter of one of your children, obviously?
Yes,
And
Amani.
which child was that?
That was my oldest son, my first grandchild.
Let's go back. When Amani was first born, did she and Aman live with you at a period of time in her early days?
Yes, she did.
All right. And if you could tell the jury in the court, when was Amani born?
She was born April 23rd, 2003, and yesterday was her birthday.
Okay. And if she was born in 2003, would she have turned 16 years old yesterday?
She would be, calculation would be exactly about 15 or 16.
16.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was 2003, is that right?
2003.
Yes, ma'am. When you said that she and your son, Aman, lived there initially, how long did they live with you after Amani was first born?
Since she was 8 years old. Then she went to live with her father.
And you said until she was about 8?
Yeah, she was 8 years old.
So for the first several years of her life, did she stay with you?
Yes, she did.
Right. And then she and Aman, they relocated. Did they still stay here in the Atlanta area at that time?
They did.
And ultimately, your son Aman married the defendant in this case, Tiffany Moss. Is that right?
Correct.
Did Amani live with both your son Aman and the defendant Tiffany for some period of time?
Yes.
When we go to, let's go to an incident that happened in 2010. Did you receive a phone call about an incident that had happened with Amani and the defendant regarding a beating?
Yes, I did.
Where did you respond with regard to that news when you were called?
They told me to come to the police station, and I think it was in Lithonia. I'm sorry,
In Lawrenceville?
in Lawrenceville.
That's all right.
In Lawrenceville, and I got a call while I was at work, an emergency call at work, so I left work and went straight down to the police station.
Once you arrived at the police station, did you meet with the detective, Detective King?
Yes,
Did she get a little bit of background from you about your relationship with Amani and Amon and Tiffany?
yes,
Based on that, was Amani removed from living with Amon and Tiffany at that particular point?
yes, she was.
Where did Amani go and live after that?
She lived with me.
So that would have been in March of 2013 when that happened. How long did Amani live there with you then?
For 6 months.
10, I apologize, 2010. I said 2013. We have to get our dates right. I apologize. So in March of 2010, it's probably why you looked at me funny, but you can correct me. All right, March of 2010 was when she came to live with you. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you said for about 6 months. And so where did you live at that time?
I lived at 900 Legacy Park Apartments, that's Preserves in Lawrenceville.
Did Amani go to school while she was there staying with you?
Yes, I took her to school every day, picked her up every day.
Did she remain at the same school that she had begun the school year out and then finished it out while she was there with you?
Correct. She did.
How was Amani doing in school at that particular time?
Well, when she was with me, everything was approving, her grades, her action, and she was just doing awesome, a lot better than she was, because they said she was closed in, and she started having tantrums and screaming, so I don't know what was going on before then, but I know when she came back with me, everything calmed back down in her life.
And she stayed there with you then through the spring and the summer. Did she begin her school year still living with you there in 2010?
She was with me until school was over, and then after that, she was back with her father.
You said so she stayed about 6 months. So the beginning of the 2010 school year then, was she placed back with Amon and the defendant in this case?
Yes.
With regard to that, did you want, without going into a lot of detail, but did you want Amani to still remain with you and live with you at that time?
Yes, I did. I went and fought it for it.
And when you say you went and fought it, was that a decision that was made by the Department of Family and Children's Services?
Yes, it was.
That, was it their decision to place Amani back with the defendant, Tiffany Moss, and her dad, Amon Moss?
Yes, it was.
You indicated you did object to that, is that right?
Correct.
But ultimately, she did not stay living with you. She went back with the defendant and her dad.
Yes.
After that time in 2010, were you able to see Amani very often?
No.
Did you make efforts to try to see her from that fall of 2010 until ultimately she died?
Yes, I did.
Would you, what type of efforts did you make in order to
Well,
try to
I
talk
would-
to her or see
I
her?
called my son, and he would just say,
Can't tell me a lot about what Amon said, okay? But were you
well, I
allowed
would
to see
talk
her?
him. I was not allowed to see her.
All right. But did you make more than one call?
Yes.
Okay. Was it something that you did repeatedly in order to see your granddaughter?
Yes, I did. And when I couldn't see her, I called DFAX.
Did you make reports to DFAX based
Yes.
on that? How many times would you say that you saw Amani between the time that she left your house when she lived with you in the fall of 2010 until she died in November of 2013?
One.
And when was that time that you actually got to see your granddaughter, Amani?
Well, it was twice. One at Tristan's birthday party. It was twice. And one was at Tristan's birthday party.
And who is Tristan?
Christian is Tiffany's son.
Was he a child that Tiffany, the defendant, and your son Amon had once they were married?
Correct.
Where was that birthday party that you saw Amani?
At Tiffany's mother's house.
Were there several family members at that birthday party?
Yes, it was.
And when you say at the birthday party, do you remember what year that was?
Not exactly.
When you saw her there, did you get to speak to Amani at the birthday party?
Yes, I did.
And that was the first time you had seen her, or was that the first time you'd seen her since she had moved out from your house?
That was the first time I've seen her.
At that time, at Tristan's birthday party, was her outward appearance the same to you or similar to you, just obviously older than when she had left you? In other words, her hair, her physical appearance.
She didn't look well. She looked very thin. Very thin.
And how did Imani typically wear her hair?
She usually wear her 2 ponytails or 3, 2 on the side and 1 in the back, or just 2.
Was that a typical hairstyle that she liked and the way she liked to wear her hair?
That's what she used to tell me, to comb it that way.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what had been previously marked and placed into evidence as State Exhibit number PS1. It's already been entered into evidence. I'm going to show you a picture of that if I'm going to approach Your Honor.
You may.
And is that, I know that she looks a little younger there, but that was, is that how she typically would wear her hair?
Yes.
All right. When you saw her at Tristan's birthday party, did she still had her hair like this? Mm-hmm. All right.
Yes.
Now, you saw her at that particular family event. You said you didn't think she looked well, but at that point, was she still living with your son and the defendant?
Correct.
And were you able to keep up with where they were residing when you were trying to get to see Imani from the fall of 2010 until the birthday party for Tristan?
No, I wasn't able. I was looking for her, but I couldn't find her.
Did your son and the defendant live in some different apartments and with different individuals during that time frame?
I believe they did. I'm not sure. I just never could find them. They kept moving.
But you, in fact, did you make efforts to try to speak with Imani or be able to see her?
Yes.
After you said that you saw her at Tristan's birthday party, when was the next time? Because you said there were 2 times. When was the next time that you saw your granddaughter,
It
Imani?
was Mother's Day.
And when you say Mother's Day, was that Mother's Day of 2013?
Yes. No, it was, yes, because yes, it was. That's the year.
Was it the May before she passed in November?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Where did you see her on Mother's Day?
I was at my daughter's house, living with my daughter, staying with my daughter for a while. And my son and Tiffany came to the house, and Imani was with them.
When they came, so there were several family members there at your daughter's house?
Just us, my daughter, and Amon and his family. So my daughter, her family, and Amon and me.
And tell me, what's your daughter's name?
Sharonice.
So you're at Sharonice's house, and how did Imani appear to you then?
She was so thin, so thin. She had this shirt on, and you can see the bones protruding out of her shoulders. And in her arms, she was so skinny, I wasn't used to that.
How was her hair?
Cut off. All of it. It's cut.
I'm going to show you a photograph. We're not going to... I'm going to approach Your Honor.
You may.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit PS21 and PS22. And ask you, let's just do 21 first, ask you if you recognize what is depicted in that particular photograph.
Her hair and the bones protruding out of her shoulder.
Well, who is that person in that photograph?
That's Imani.
Right. And is this State's Exhibit PS 21, is that an accurate depiction of the way Imani looked to you in May of 2013?
Yes.
And how about State's Exhibit PS 22? Is that also an accurate depiction of Imani in May of 2013?
Yes.
Does that also show
Yes.
how her hairstyle was at that time?
Yes.
Just have you identify those for right now, and I'll admit those in just a moment. You said that you noticed her hair on Mother's Day, and why was it so different to you?
Because Imani had long hair and it shouldn't have been cut.
Did you ask about how her hairstyle came to be like that?
Yes, I did. I said, why is her hair cut off?
And who did you ask that to?
I asked Tiffany that.
And what was the response?
If you act ugly, you should look ugly.
At any time, did Imani tell you that she had cut her own hair?
No, she did not.
When you saw her that day, did you get to spend some time with Imani, your granddaughter, that day?
I did. I did.
And at that particular time, your son, Iman, and the defendant, in this case, Tiffany, they had 2 additional children, is that right? Did they have Tristan and Emma?
Correct.
And so were all, that entire family, were all of those people present there for Mother's Day?
Correct.
And when you said, did Imani leave? You were staying there at Sharonisa's house, is that right? Okay. And then I'm assuming, obviously, everyone left, ultimately, after the festivities were done that day.
Correct.
And did you say goodbye to Imani that day?
Yes, I did.
And were you, after that, did you try to see her anymore after you saw her on that Mother's Day?
Yes, but I didn't have a number anywhere to reach them or know where they were.
I'm sorry?
I didn't know where they were or a number to reach them.
And did you ever, at any time, ever try to communicate with the defendant to try to have contact with Imani, with Tiffany?
No, just my son.
And after that Mother's Day, would your son, Iman Moss, would he respond to you or grant your request to see Imani?
He said, he had called me and said that he would bring her by.
Did
And-
that ever happen?
No.
Ms. Moss, was Mother's Day of 2013 the last time then that you saw your granddaughter alive?
Yes, it was.
I know we've referred to her as Tiffany, but do you see the person that you have referred to as Tiffany Moss, your daughter-in-law, sitting in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
And where is that person?
Right there.
Okay, I know you've pointed. Can you just tell me what color shirt she may be wearing so it can be reflected for the record?
Royal blue.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the record reflect she has identified the defendant in this case. Ms. Moss, those are all the questions that I have for you. Thank you, ma'am.
Cross-examination. May this witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor, and I know that Ms. Moss may want to remain in the courtroom. I just want to make sure that she is completely excused to observe the remainder of the trial if she chooses to do so.
She has been excused, yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
You can step down. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take one of those mid-morning breaks that I told you about. Let me remind you of the instructions that I've given you previously, and I promise we're going to start to sound very familiar. Do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not allow anyone else to discuss the case with you or in your presence or hearing. Do not even discuss the case amongst yourselves. Do not attempt any independent research or investigation into any aspect of the case, and do not obviously read or listen to any accounts that might appear in the news media.